First of all, WICCI. It stands for Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and it is a non-profitable, non-religious, and a voluntary organization founded by Dr. Harbin Arora Rai. And we in particular are from a council named as Equitable Parenting Council. So here we aim to uh, impact more than 44 million parents that are there currently in India, and obviously we have a lot of participants that join us from abroad as well, uh, with the core perspective that whatever information the parent gets is right, and it is not a marketing gimmick or so. It is factual, it is knowledgeable, based on research, based on real expertise. And for that we have a great team of council members who are from different area of expertise, right from parenting, education, medical, careers, uh, legal, financial, grooming, and quite a wide spectrum, with the core purpose that whatever information a parent gets, it's right, and it's helpful in their parenting journey, especially for them, and more importantly for the children who are completely dependent on the parent, who is completely dependent on a knowledgeable and righteous society, which includes you and me. Right, today we have a very special expert, a very special person, uh, who's really special to me as well, Farhad Merchant, who's a great, humble being, very loving, very caring towards all, regardless of age, position, regardless of what expertise you have or no. It doesn't quite matter. Moreover, yes, he's a great person. He's a great, amazing dad, and you'll get to learn more about him. He's a techie guy, a proper IT guy who has his heart in the education field. So right now he's the CEO of Aga Khan Education Service India. Farhad Merchant has over 3 decades of versatile international experience in the corporate and social sector. After spending almost 17 years in the IT corporate sector, he moved into the non-profit sector in 2008. In his various roles, he has led organizational change, leadership development, and has worked towards transforming the lives of 10 plus million children from low income families globally through educational solutions that are contextual, simple, and impactful. Now let's focus on the achievement of Farhad Merchant. He is an Aspire Circle Fellow, Fellowship of Social Leaders, leveraging collaboration to create a larger impact in society. He also serves on the board of Common Purpose. He is a thought leader, a TEDx speaker. Computer World magazine had featured him in the People section, and he has recently been covered in the Book of Aspirations, featuring the biographic stories of 10 social leaders in India. He has received numerous awards: Global Change Maker Award, Innovative CEO Award, Siksha Ratan Puraskar, Education Legend, Most Impactful Social Innovators, Leaders, and Education Icon of the Year. During his tenure, Aga Khan Education Service has also bagged numerous national level awards, including India's Top School Chain of the Year, Top Early Childhood Education Chain, and Most Respected Education Brands, and India's Most Respected Early Childhood Education Brand. So let's give a round of applause and invite Farhad Merchant. Come on. Real great. A warm welcome, Farhad, and the digital stage is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Aziel. I think, when you first asked me to speak on the subject, I want to first say that, you've been doing an amazing job keeping up the momentum of these sessions for parents consistently, 2 times a week. And it's been like, you've not let it down, right from the pandemic period. So I think that's a great job and is very commendable. So hats off to you. And when you said, you should speak on this subject, my first go-to person was, my daughter was right here. said, I went and asked her whether she would vouch for me being the right person to speak on this subject. I'm going to, I'm going to keep you guys guessing on her response, okay? Not, I'm not going to tell you anything about it. But I think, being a dad in the digital world is like, playing a video game without a tutorial. So you're trying to keep up, you're trying to avoid traps, you're also trying to achieve a high score. Or, in another way, it could be like you're going somewhere without GPS, and this GPS is not the GPS that you're running. This is more about the global positioning system, where we're trying to make the most of every detour that we have along the way, along the journey. So I think that's how I would say being a dad is about. And whether it's in the real world or it's in the digital world, I don't think there is that much difference. Of course, there are things that will be more specific technically that we would have to be mindful of. But at the end of the day, it is about parenting. And that's the reason, in our initial exchange, I said this should be being about a parent in the digital world rather than just being a dad, to be more gender unbiased. But anyway, I think broadly, I would like to say that it's not just about being a tech savvy dad. So, while I have a background in technology, I think for most of us, I think it's important that we are at least tech aware. And the children themselves are going to be far more tech savvy than us. And they will surpass us at some stage, from childhood as they grow older, in being able to adapt and adopt the technology that is coming our way. So I think that's an important point to keep in mind. What we share the responsibility of is about protecting these kids and the children from online risks, building trust with them over time. And this building of trust is not necessarily just for the digital world, but it's about building trust with them regardless of what the world that we're speaking about. And also respecting their increasing need for privacy. And I think this is something that, it kind of goes hand in hand, and it's a balance to be maintained between, the building of the trust with them and also respecting their privacy. And I think these are two things that we will kind of keep as a thread through the session, as I speak about the different age groups that parents need to be mindful of what to keep in mind. Overall, I would say that the goal is not to control their technology world, but it is to guide them safely, to navigate, to be able to do this with love, and also respecting boundaries, right? And in the midst of all this, since you say it's a session for dad, then you can add a dash of dad humor along with that love and boundaries that are there, because I think that goes without saying. And no matter how much we try to control our dad humor, the dad jokes will creep in, as we go through the session. But I think, the open communication is key to the relationship, whether we talk about the real world, whether we talk about the digital world. And it's important that the children understand that mistakes provide opportunities to learn. So for parents, it is important that we don't judge them for making those mistakes and instead encourage them to learn from them. And I'm sure all of us, at different ages and stages of our lives, have made enough mistakes and learned from them, and that's where we have grown in the bargain. I think as a dad, you can't keep them away from the bad stuff. But what you can help them do is teach them how to spot them and how to respond to them, how to navigate the bad stuff that comes along with the technology, along with the digital era that we are in today. And nothing is better than letting actions speak for themselves. So what you say does not matter as much as what you do. And it's very important that we keep that in mind, whether it is related to technology or in everyday life. And at the risk of sounding cliched, I think it's important that I also mention that things were very different when we were young, and I think all of us will agree to that. Before the digital era, before the digital age, privacy basically meant going in, and shutting the door, and or going away outside the home when you don't have a separate room for yourself. Screen time typically meant watching cartoons on TV on a Saturday. So those were the days, and I think while we have kind of gone past these days, the evolution of parenthood has also tried to adapt to the changes that we have seen in the evolution of technology creeping into our homes. And I think largely, if I had to summarize, the kind of strategies that we need, and this applies across ages. I'll kind of go into specific age groups as well, because I kind of remember my kids are now, 17 and 19. And, as they grew through the early years and till this age, there was a natural progression of the kind of liberties and what kind of controls that were put in place to ensure that, we were protecting them, providing them with the safety net, and at the same time, encouraging them to use technology wisely. And I think that's something that balance is something that continues to apply through the ages. But across, all ages, I think it's important. And let me say that, some of these things that I'm talking about are not easy. They are, some of them are difficult to put into practice, regardless of, all the, lofty ways in which you have introduced me. It has been extremely challenging in many ways, and I still struggle to say let's unplug. Right, as a family, the ideal thing to do is find time which is designated to be technology free. Turn off the Wi-Fi, turn off your phones, sit and have a proper conversation over a meal. And that is something that, while we were able to do it maybe till a few years back, it has become exceedingly more and more difficult, especially through the pandemic, to be able to do that. And, it's not, it's important to know that real life does not need screens, but it's also important to acknowledge that we ourselves are slaves to those screens. So as parents, you cannot, preach without practicing the same, and it is not an easy thing to practice. The other thing I think which applies across ages is, to laugh at yourself and to laugh at the digital differences that exist between what we know and what we are able to do and what the children know and are able to do, right? So as they grow, as they learn, they become far more technology advanced than we are, and that, we don't keep up or not able to keep pace with the kind of new technologies, AI creeping in and so on, and how best and most effectively to use that. So it's important that we use, as I said, the dad joke, so to speak, to deal with these technology challenges. Remind them that, you may not be proficient in the things that they know, but you're here to help them to navigate those, in a safe manner. And then the other one is, I think, important is, I think we need not fear technology, right? I mean, in those days, it was about calculators coming in and the fear that, we will not know how to add and subtract. Today, technology has gone way beyond that. And how do we use it as a tool and not a threat? And that is an important one that we need to remember, and to remind them that technology offers these endless possibilities if they are used wisely. Help the children to see that, technology is a resource, not a danger. It requires to be handled just as any other resource, right? With care, with responsibility. Similarly, technology needs to be also handled with care and with responsibility. The other one, as I said, which is very difficult to implement, is to model that digital safety. Show your kids that you yourself are able to refrain, abstain, stay true to what the mass values and messages that you're preaching to them by practicing them yourself. Show them your safety practices. So, in an online medium, how we need to protect our privacy, not overshare, not communicate and share information that is private with strangers. And the definition of strangers is changing very much in an online mode these days. So while we would say, in the younger age, don't talk to strangers, now it's about don't interact with strangers in the online mode. And I think this is, also seen by parents when we ourselves practice some of these aspects, and when we model these behaviors. And then the other aspect I think is important to have safe and open communications. And again, this one whether we talk about technology or in the real world, it's important that the children know that we are available to them to discuss anything, anything that may be unusual, anything that may be troubling. When they observe or see things online which they are not comfortable with, they should know that they have somebody to turn to and talk about things. In the same way that they would, see something happening in the world around them and come and be able to talk about it with you. So that building of the trust with the child, such that they are able to come and speak with you without fear, without being judged, is an important one. Stress that there's no shame in admitting a mistake or asking for advice, and I think these are things that kind of go in with the digital world as well as in the real world. And I think one more aspect that is important is to set realistic expectations. So I remember, in the earlier days when the kids were younger, we would set these screen time limits. You're going to get 1 hour on every day and 2 hours on a weekend, or whatever that with the age increasing, that time change. But we realized that we couldn't really hold the kids to it. The schools themselves started, expecting more screen time, and so the kids naturally had to do that. So I think it's okay if the screen time limits don't go perfectly, that they don't go as per your expectations. There's only so much that you can control. What is important is to make them use it safely, wisely, and in the right manner. And I think that's something that I learned, as we went along. I'll go back to my children when they were young and kind of, through the years of progression, so that, I can relate to, how and what are the kind of things that we need to keep in mind, because the parents have kids at different age ranges. So, some of it may be relatively useful for those that have younger kids versus those that have got older kids. So I think, the age group of kids between, let's say, 5 to 10 years, you start with simple safety and boundaries. And again, here, as I said, it's about, you walking the talk, young kids learning from watching you. They need to know that screens aren't everything. So, you taking part in everyday activities without being hooked to your phone is an important one, because that sets the foundation in their thinking and acting. So that's a very, very crucial age when the children actually form these behaviors and practices. The other one that is important is that not everyone online is a friend. The Teach them that they should not be so for that age group, they do not understand, the when we say you cannot click on relatively scary links, right? But they will know that the links are unfamiliar links. They will understand the concept of not talking to strangers, just as in real life, not talking to strangers in games. So I think these are a couple of things that are important. The other one that I remember doing in those days was setting up parental controls on the laptops that they're using, so that they are not able to access sites which are not appropriate, because that a lot of sites will pop up a lot of nonsense with mature themes which are not appropriate for those for that age group. The other is in terms of the technology usage for these children, where we started to show them games that are educational, where they will learn from them. So these are, more age appropriate. So for that age group between 5 and 10, it's about drawing, it's about educational games such as drag and drop of, numeracy and literacy kind of games and so on. So that the screen time appears and feels like a play time, and not just watching mindless YouTube videos in so to speak. And the last point I think for that age group is setting those boundaries. Like I said, limiting the screen time, having certain times when you can spend time with them without any screens, over dinner and showing them that there is a life beyond screen. So taking them on outings, etc., where you don't have your devices with you. So I think that's an important part for that age group. I'll go with the next age group, which is typically the preteen years, where you want to build on what you have done with the kids, where we set the simple safety, set the boundaries for them. Now it's about building awareness and critical thinking. So, how do you, as a parent, understand their world? Learning the basics of the applications that they are into. What kind of, let's say, I mean, in India, TikTok is banned, thankfully, but YouTube trends that they are into, and so on and so forth. And it's important that you try and understand and try and get to know what is it that piques their interest, right? They will appreciate your effort, even if they tend to laugh at you for not knowing it, right? But the idea is about creating that bond with them, helping them, make sure they navigate safely, but at the same time, learning from what they are doing. The other important one, and especially at this age group, is about teaching them kindness and responsibility, just like in the real world, on the digital platform as well. So how they can be more respectful online, understand that these real life rules apply to the group chats that they are having as well. About kindness, about respect. Sometimes it's on the gaming platforms, and where they have these chats happening. On social media, they have the chats happening. So I think a lot of these, the importance of being kind, avoiding mean comments, making sure that if somebody else is doing that and bullying online, that this is brought to the attention of an adult, of a parent, who can then take appropriate measures or actions wherever they can. Because I think it's, this will build the child's empathy and help him to understand some of these concepts that are in real life on a digital platform. Because what tends to happen is there is almost a veneer, that is there, a mask that people tend to have in an online mode, because they are safe from having an in-person conversation. So it's important that children understand the importance of maintaining that on the online mode as well. And then the device habits. How healthy can you have device habits? Because the children, you can start having more meaningful conversations at this age group. Explain to them that constant screen time isn't great for their brains. Set realistic limits, and as I said, these limits, it's okay to let them stretch. It's I'm not going to say that this is the correct number of hours or that is the correct number of hours. There are enough online stories, theories and research that is done, which says that this is the right one, but there is nothing that is hard and fast. So I think as parents, we need to be a little bit flexible, understand your child, and while I have tried to classify it in different age groups, this is transitionary, right? So it's not that okay, suddenly you're 10 years old and everything changes. It's basically a gradual progression. And then we move on to the next age group, which is a critical one, the young teens, where you enter into the teenage years, the 13 to 15 age group. It's a lot about encouraging self-management, of course, with the appropriate guidance that needs to be there. So one thing that we as parents need to know is that we have to admit the fact that they are now a lot more tech savvy. They know a lot more about their devices than you do. So it's fine to let them teach you something and laugh about it, because that is where the bonds will constantly get strengthened with your children. The second piece is about again building on what we did for the 5 to 10 year and the 10 to 12 year age group. This is about positive technology use. So how can we use technology as a creative outlet? So how do we use it to, let's say, create videos, use it for art, use it for coding? This is the age where coding comes in. They can create games and or do other things with the coding. And I think that becomes a creative outlet for them as well. And then balancing this is the age where they want privacy as well. So you need to be able to balance that privacy with an appropriate level of oversight. So you need to respect their need for privacy, but setting the healthy boundaries, encouraging open communication about what they are doing online, so that and you can actually trust them to be doing the right thing, because you have imbibed some of these uh, behaviors and values in these children from a younger age till this age. The other important one is at this age is about understanding the digital footprint that we leave behind. So, what goes online stays online, right? You're not able to scrub that off. And that's an important one, because, you don't want, and children understand at this age, right, that you don't want their teachers or their future employers seeing their dance videos which look cringy, or something else that they said online which may be inappropriate. So I think it's important that they know about the digital footprint that they're leaving behind. And this is also an age where you can help them to spot scams. There are enough and more. I mean, yes, they need to know that they have not won an iPhone from some random email, or won $1 million from a relative in Nigeria. So these are the kind of things that typically are, this is the age where children learn about it. They may click something, and then it ends up creating a problem. So it's important that they are able to approach you to ask you if this seems suspicious or not, because it's very likely that many of the spams will start hitting them as they start using social media, etc. more. And then this is also the age, from teenage years, and these days even preteens, all the way through the young adulthood. They all are dealing with peer pressure, and this age, where there is a pressure to share, post, participate in trends. I think what we need to encourage them is to question if what they are posting is something that they'll be okay with, 1 month or 1 year from now. And I think you will be surprised that they are actually quite conscious of these things. And sometimes they will, understand and not post something that they would otherwise have posted, by having these kind of conversations. And then I'll move on to the young adult age group, which is, and I'm going to take, I know young adults is defined differently as in 18 plus, but I'll take the 16 plus, because these days kids are a lot more aware and a lot more conscious at this age group. And I think this is the age where you need to protect them with trust and give them a certain degree of independence. And it's about trusting and letting go, so to speak. Because by now you have built that foundation of trust. You have been gradually increasing the trust level that you built with your child. You've created boundaries. You allowed them to have, the relative privacy that they wanted. Now we need to shift from oversight to guidance. So there is over the next 2-3 years, it's about making that shift happen. Let them make more of their decisions online. They should feel comfortable coming to you. And this is, irrespective of whether it's in the digital world or whether it's in the real world. But it's important that they are able to take those decisions themselves, that they are able to think critically about what they are doing and take those conscious decisions and make the right choices. The other one is about celebrating their technology skills. Acknowledge that they are, definitely more often quicker with technology than we are, right? I mean, while I'm a techie, I think I'm quite outdated based on, what I see my kids doing these days. And let them teach you these things, right? Let them teach you what they're doing. Let them teach you these new things, because it's a fun way to connect with them, and it shows them that you value their expertise. In all probability, you would go to them for help in the digital world, because I certainly do, right? I think it's an important area. I kind of go and say, okay, how do I do this? And they'll be very happy to sit with you and explain it. And I think this applies regardless of whether you are a tech expert or whether you are completely naive in the space. So I think that's important. And I think I spoke about this earlier. It's important for us to be their safety net, but not their judge, right? We cannot be judgmental. So, when they come to you with issues that they're seeing, they're facing, it's important give them room to manage their lives independently, but they should know that you are there if they ever need advice. In all probability, you'll hear a you. That's not what I want to talk to you about. That's the kind of response you'll get, because by now they feel independent enough to be able to make those choices and take those decisions. The other one is about digital citizenship, the importance of authenticity, the importance of empathy, and kindness online. And this is, while I've said online, it's also, as you are well aware, as a parent, this is equally important in the real world. And this will help them build their own identities, their identity as a human being, and their identities online. Somebody who's authentic, who is not afraid to speak their mind, is empathetic towards others, and is kind with everyone that they interact with. So I think this is an important aspect. So just as a citizen in the real world, how can they be good digital citizens? And then the reputation, the digital reputation. So online reputation, security, privacy. Letting them know and understand about privacy settings, password protection. Uh, you know, uh, it's about making sure that they are not oversharing, right? While you may overshare with them about all of these different aspects, but they shouldn't be oversharing online, because that's an important one where they need to manage and control. And again, I think I spoke about mature content. It's very important that while we respect the children's privacy, we need to be clear with them that certain things are inappropriate, and such as inappropriate content, or forums that may be risky for them to participate in, because these are not helpful, these are not safe, and these are not adding value to their own growth and development. So it's important that we discuss what they're consuming online and check in occasionally without seeming to pry. We do not want to be prying, and again, it kind of conflicts and contradicts what we are saying about giving them that freedom and privacy, because we have built that trust with them. And I think that's the balance that we need to maintain. So largely, if I had to kind of summarize, it's important that we stay engaged and curious, stay updated on the new technologies, even if it's just the basics, show that it's cool to keep learning. There's always something new to understand. Uh, you know, Kids love to teach, so sit down with them, let them guide you on some tech tips, if they are more advanced, while you provide the guidance on safety, because that is your role as a parent. And then it's about bridging the gap. There are lots of apps, new trends that are coming up every day. It's very difficult for parents to keep pace with that. So it's okay to laugh about the fact that we don't know everything. We are not know-it-alls. Admit that you are stumped by their world and their language and their emoji language, or their acronyms and their new age words that they use. But it's also important that when we laugh about it, we laugh together, right? Because then the generation gap seems less daunting. You tend to feel one with your child, and I think that's the most important thing. Because the goal is not to control, but to guide them into becoming more responsible digital citizens. I think I'll stop there. Can of course open it up for some questions so that we have a few minutes to have some of those answered as well. Thanks, Aziel. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Farhad. Farhad, I think I don't ask a question. I ask the audience to ask question, but uh, I will want you to focus or share your thoughts on the how can we have dads more engaged. Though I know the first time, the moment I told you about it's about dad, you said it's bias, and sometimes it's good to be biased, especially when you see the only spectrum, only the mothers attending most of the time. I won't say all the um, uh, there are quite a few, like even today there are quite a few, there are some fathers who are a part of it as well. But how to have more fathers engaged in the child, considering that the fathers are working, when they're back home they're busy, they're going to be busy with their devices, and there's of all sorts, right? There's a lot of distractions possible. So what is your take on it, and how can a mother support a father to contribute in a child's life?
So I'm going to say something that is probably going to be very contradictory here, but in today's day and age, mothers are not the ones that are necessarily sitting at home mothers, right? Many of them on this group are all working mothers. So when we say that the father is working and comes home, and how can the mother support, or how can the father engage? If the mother is engaging with the child, it's equally responsible. I think it's an expectation that the father should be engaging equally with the child. Now, what is it that we can do about it? I think that's a different, probably a separate session that needs to be there, in terms of how do we engage fathers more. And this is not only in the digital world or in such sessions. I think I have been to many of when my kids are parent teacher meetings, or we have events where they are performing and so on. Typically, the when I go in to attend them, I have seen exactly what you're saying, that there is minimal participation of by fathers, even though it's a parent day celebration, or if it's a any such event. And I think this is a mindset change that we need to have. This is very typical in India. It's not probably something that would be the same in other parts of the world. And I think I'm hoping and I'm seeing gradually that this is changing. There is slightly more participation, but nowhere close to what it needs to be. I think the sessions such as these, where you talk about these things, the sessions such as these where you have recorded it and sharing it, I think will hopefully bring about more awareness for fathers to also feel that they should be part of the I don't think it's about them not being part of the child's life. I think they are, part of the child's life. It's about attending events such as this, right? So I think they don't necessarily attend as many events as the mothers do. And why that is, I really cannot say. I enjoy attending sessions like this, so it's probably to do with an individual preference, choice, or whatever it is. I don't think it's so much to do with male versus female, but there is definitely something that needs to be done. So while I agree with what you're saying, Aziel, I don't think I have an answer right now of what we can do. As I said, sharing it and using these platforms to give the message is good. But if the attendees on the sessions are already the ones that are going to come, I don't know that is going to change much. So we need to share it far more widely, and bring about more awareness about the role that fathers need to play in their children's lives.
Certainly, there's a hope to it, and I think the session was largely hopeful that yes, we'll connect with more fathers. So first, I will really like to have, in case if there are fathers, and if you all would like to ask question, again being biased, I will. It will be nice that you ask question or you share your experience to it, and then we'll go to the mothers. This time the mothers will be the last. Normally ladies first, but this time we'll have the fathers first. So if anyone, please unmute and talk, or else you can put it in the chat, and we'll take up the question or the query or your experiences, any of it. Or if you would like to say something about today's session, please unmute and say as well, or put it in the chat, and we'll take it up from there. We have Shivakumar, so thank you so much for raising your hand. It's nice. So please, yes, please go ahead.
Actually, there are certain ways, like normally the parents can monitor the uh, different tools that the kids are using. Either using maybe a family link, or maybe there are certain apps like through which we can monitor what the kids are doing, and we can control to some extent like how many hours they can use this. So, like, I just wanted to know, like, what's your suggestion on that? Like, should we be using, because again, like, when we try to control, then they have a other feeling like we are controlling them. Especially when we go to a little the age of who are maybe 13 plus for them. So, what is your suggestion regarding those things?
So Shivkumar, I think as I said, by the age of 13, we need to have built that trust. So it is about starting to let go, ensure that they're using technology in a positive way, and start to, So it's not about completely letting go. There is some level of oversight that you need to have, but you need to start making sure that they understand that you trust them, and then only put in these controls or tighten these controls if they breach that trust, if they break that trust. And that too, it's an ongoing iterative process. So if they break the trust, you put that back in, but you say that this you're going to monitor for a month. And then if they are, doing this right, then again, give them that freedom, because otherwise if you do not trust them enough to be able to manage themselves, then you will never be able to trust them enough. This is like, whether it's the digital world or in the real world, it is very important that we build that trust with the children, show them that we trust them while, maintaining a degree of oversight to ensure that they are not getting swayed and taken in the wrong direction, making sure that we are putting safety protocols in place, making sure that they understand two-factor authentication, password protection, making sure that they don't go on to sites which are inappropriate for them. So those are the ways in which you will put in these boundaries, so to speak. But within the boundaries, you need to give them that degree of flexibility and freedom.
Thank you.
Can we put in one key takeaway from today's session? Though it has been unique, a different type of session, not a regular typical session, but what is that one key takeaway that you have from today's session? If you could put it in the chat or unmute and say either which ways, that would be really nice. Yes, Dr. Manjula, please go ahead.
Yeah, so that was a very wonderful session. I wish we had such session when I was a young mother. I was all lost. But what I understand is the trust that Mr. Farhad talked about. That is very, very important. And I could relate to that because I see I have a 15-year-old granddaughter, and my daughter's doing a better job than I did, I think. So with tech things and everything, I feel overwhelmed when I see her handling situation, and I think, oh my God, thank God I'm not at this age mother. I'm only a grandmother. I can look from afar, but it's nice. It's very challenging, but I think it is doable. I wish all fathers. It's not about fathers alone. Parents as a team, we should work towards this, and I think all of us have a role. Whether you're a grandparent, whether you're a teacher, or whether you are somebody in the neighborhood, you know, we have to be responsible as a society as a whole. That's what I feel. And children have to learn to trust us, whether, like he said, as a parent or a teacher or somebody in the neighborhood to whom you can connect and to whom you can share. That's very important.
That's quite thoughtful. Thank you so much, Dr. Manjula. And there's a lot of messages that's popping in as well. So really, really nice. Yes, Punit. Yeah. Yes, Punit. Please come in.
I shall go with Hindi because I'm more comfortable in Hindi.
जरूर आप कोई भी भाषा से बात कर सकते हैं, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है.
हाँ, बच्चों को समझाना वो पहले की बात थी, अब उनको समझना पड़ेगा.
करेक्ट.
तो मेरा ऐसा मानना है, ये मेरा थिंकिंग है, और जब तक ये सेशन जो मैंने देखा तो मैं ये कंक्लूजन पे पहुंचता हूँ कि उनको समझाना वो पहले की बात थी, लेकिन अब उनको समझना पड़ेगा, उनके नजदीक जाना पड़ेगा और नजदीक जाना पड़ेगा.
बहुत सही. आई थिंक बहुत अच्छे से आपने ये किया कि पहले उनको समझना, वो हम उनको समझे, वो सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है. तो बहुत सही आपने कहा है. एंड यस, ट्रस्ट फैक्टर है, being comfortable, but I think beyond this I would still say, especially किसी ने चैट पे भी डाला है कि I think it's time where dads come together and start talking about parenting and start talking about themselves first. Parenting will come in next, but start talking about yourselves, about your care, because I think it's important, again being biased, but if dads are emotionally well, it plays a huge role on the child automatically, on the spouse automatically, right? If there are stresses a dad goes through, similarly if a mother goes through, it impacts the family in the same way. The stress of a father also impacts the family, and more importantly their own health. And unfortunately, because most of the fathers will not talk it out, कभी कभार violent behaviors होते हैं, that is a different scenario altogether. But most of the fathers are not accepting, or they don't voice out what they're going through, good or bad. That makes things more difficult. And today's session was largely like, even what I told Farhad was just share your perspective as a father. That's it, because हमारे पास we hardly have knowledge about what a father is thinking, what are a father's feeling, what are the father's pain points, the joys of being a father. We hardly have any of those information. And for that, thank you so much, Farad, for accepting the invitation and for having such thoughtful, such an impactful session which focused on uh, first as a father, and then how we can be a good parent to the child as well. And thanks to your daughter, I'm sure she said wonderful things, because of which you said a yes. First it was a no, but then it was a yes. So thanks to the family for supporting this decision, because we need more fathers to come in and have such sessions where we can talk openly about being a dad, and not only on Father's Day. Uh, so thanks a lot, Farad, for once again for your time, for all the efforts that you put behind the session, and for connecting with us.
Thank you, Aziel, and thank you everyone for joining in. Take care. Bye bye.